Bedkar sir.
Yes, sir, you can start now.
So very good evening to you all. Shri Kumarswami Mahavidyalaya Ausa, District Latur in Maharashtra State. It's organized World Record Series 2. Today there is 213th day of the series, and the resource person for today's session is with us Honorable Shobana Karthikeyan Madam. So I welcome to you, Madam, on the virtual platform. I welcome the Chief Organizer of the series, Honorable Principal M.M. Bedkar sir. I welcome the colleagues from my college, Dr. Sanjay Kale sir, Anita Dole Madam, Honorable Praveen Woodge sir, and heartily welcome all those dear participants. The topic for today's presentation is sustainable development. Now, before we start the presentation, it's my pleasure to introduce the keynote speaker for today's session, Honorable Shobana Karthikeyan Madam. She is an assistant professor serving at Madras Christian College, Chennai. So with this brief introduction, now I request you, Madam, please start your presentation on the topic sustainable development. You are most welcome, Madam.
Namaste, sir. Very good evening to each one of you present here. Dear Dr. Bedkar and Dr. Prashant Lugade, and dear respected friends from the academic fraternity all across India, and dear respected participants, it's my absolute pleasure to be here amidst you to be delivering this lecture on sustainable development, and I'm equally thrilled to be a part of this national level record webinar series. Today is day 213 and I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation, sir. So we would now move on to today's topic, sustainable development. Sustainable development, as we all know, we have heard of it in different facets. While we belong to different fraternity, this word is definitely not new to us. So this one, in 40 to 45 minutes, the most we can do, we are aware of it, is to basically define probably attempt to define the boundaries of what sustainable development is. So, which is my humble attempt in this lecture as well. So, what is it that we are going to try to do in these 40 minutes? So, we will trace the entire journey all the way from where we started, from the Industrial Revolution till the 2030 agenda, which is the Sustainable Development Goal agenda. And we will try to see if is there any hope for humanity or not. So we will start with analyzing the economic and the business landscape, the ecological landscape, and the political landscape. The cusp of all these three forms the basis for sustainable development. The next one is about the brief history of economic growth all across the world, and close to it we also have to understand what population explosion actually means to us, because population numbers are actually the whole problem that is being addressed in sustainable development, because we are pushing the earth to its limits everywhere. So that happens on account of population. So we then move on to seeing what the world has to offer us. The world, a beautiful place that we all live in, we call it the home. This is a place which is remarkably unequal and also threatening in its own way today. So we move on to seeing what is the core of sustainable development. There are certain vital questions for everybody that needs to be answered. We also have to ask ourselves questions as to where or how we are going to step into the future. So we will define three elements of sustainable development and bring in a fourth element of governance. Governance not just limited to the governments. Governance implicitly implies that it is something that's dispensed by the governments. But it does not, today's times, it does not stop with just the governments. There is an important sector, the business sector or the multinational corporations, which are huge. They have a humongous influence on the way you and I think, live our lives, and how governments act as well. So how this...
Sorry, madam.
Yes,
I'm
sir?
sorry, slides are not moving.
I have not moved anything, sir. I'm just with one slide. Are you able to see that?
Yes, it's okay, madam. Please, please.
Yeah. I have not. I've not moved anything.
No doubt.
Yes,
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah. So the next one is about seeing how complex a system we are sitting on right now. Then we move on to defining what sustainability is, and we look at sustainability, sustainable growth versus unsustainable growth, as a very brief case of China. And then we move on to looking at the planetary boundaries, what action the world in its collective sphere has taken so far. So, what have the Millennium Development Goals done? What is the unfinished business of the Millennium Development Goals? And what is it with the Sustainable Development Goals? And where we move forward? So, this will be the entire thing. It's actually a fairly a Herculean task that is set out, but I will try to do as much justice as I can. So, it will be a fair statement, while a threatening statement, to say that the world is in the middle of an existential threat. So, our very existence is on the crossroads. Whether the human race with its species around it is going to move into the future or not is a question. We all have to stop, put everything that we are doing, put down everything that we are doing, and answer. So, we will first see what the economic or the business landscape is. Today, we are connected like never before. We have the information and the communications revolution that is leading every sphere of our lives. We have artificial intelligence, we have machine learning, we have systems that think better than us, we have systems that execute things better than us. So, human brains and human existence is slowly beginning to be questioned by machines. That is something that's happening today. Am I audible, sir? Are you able to see the slides? I'm sorry.
Yes, madam, you are getting your voice, no doubt.
Okay,
Please
yes,
continue.
sir, sure, okay. So, technologies today are so new that we only saw this in movies just a few years ago, or probably just 1 decade ago. So, these new opportunities that we have with us today also bring with it huge risks. So, you have information security breaches also. You have money in the cryptocurrency, you have the dark internet as well. So, any business landscape that you see today has its counterpart, its dangerous counterpart lurking somewhere just around the corner. So,
Ma'am, just I'm sorry. If possible, please make use of Hindi also. Mixed language, Hindi and English. If possible.
हिंदी थोड़ा ट्राई करूंगी सर, उतना तो मैं टेक्निकल टर्म्स जानती नहीं हूँ, सिर्फ बात करना आता है मुझे, ट्राई करूंगी मैं. Okay, so the world today, or maybe I will speak slightly slowly, sir. Probably that will be better. So we move into the ecological landscape. So what is the environment around us? How is the environment around us behaving today? So human existence has pushed the boundaries of the environment today. What has eventually happened is we have climate disruption. There are species that we just saw a few years ago that we no longer see today. There are several species that we show only in posters to our children. So huge loss of biodiversity, species, the number of butterflies that are disappearing from the Earth's surface, and every day one or the other species is leaving the planet. So the basic chemistry in terms of how air, land, oceans behave, their compositions, even that is taking a difference today. So moving on to the political landscape, we all knew that today's geopolitics is at the heart of how the world operates. So we all saw G20 when countries came together, they signed the Delhi agenda. We are aware of how the world gets together. At the same point, we are equally and acutely aware of how the once bipolar world today has grown into several regional powers. So it is no longer USSR and the USA on one hand and USA on the other. No. So there are several regional blocs that are gaining traction, and new form of global governance, new players, new leaders are emerging. So at the heart of all this is the economic growth. Every country seeks to see what kind of economic growth they are getting into. Fair enough. From today, the world GDP is around 104 trillion. But then it is, if you will compare the statistics of the Industrial Revolution and today, we are at least so much in magnitude as compared to the 1750s. So, if we will just look at this chart, all through humanity, right from the starting of the AD, all along here, the GDP only, you will see that it's pretty much flat until about the 1750s. That is where we had the Industrial Revolution. It was a milestone achievement for humanity as such, if I may say so. So it starts increasing only after that, and the gross world output increases only after 1750. So this is just a little glance on how the world global map looks like, the per capita map looks like. The countries in dark blue are the ones which are really the rich countries, and you can see India, which where the GDP, the per capita income is about 2,500 to 5,000, and this is how the world looks like today as far as the income distribution is concerned. So, at the heart of all this, the starting point of any analysis on sustainability or any discussion of sustainability is attributable to the huge population increase we have gotten ourselves into. As human beings started to make food using technology, where food could be stored, the masses could be actually fed. So, when starvation could actually be won, that is when the population also started increasing. So, technology, the high yielding varieties, the fertilizers, everything attributed actually to the population increase. So, today we have grown so much. We have not only grown food, we have grown ourselves also in numbers. So, today there are about 8.02 billion, and we expect to be about 9 billion by 2050 and 10.8 billion by the turn of the century. So we just have only about 70 plus, 75 plus years for the turn of the century, and we will be 10.8 billion by then. The way this graph plots look any familiar? If you're thinking the shape is kind of familiar, yes, this is the population graph. It goes very, very closely with the GDP graph. So if we can just see this, this is how it looked like. This one also looks very similar. So to say, the increase in the food actually fed the world population as well. So which is what caused the population to increase. So here, how while the population has increased, the population growth has gone down. So we do have a theory in economics, which is the theory of demographic transition. So now, definitely the population rate, growth rate has definitely increased as compared to the previous decades and the previous centuries. We are losing less lives as compared to the number of births. The mortality, the infant mortality has gone down. While it has not gone down all across the globe, but in general, definitely we are doing better in certain numbers. So, moving on, what do these population numbers mean to us? Yes, fair enough. We are about 7.88 billion, which is about 788 crore people today on this planet. But what does it mean to us? So, each of these buckets of population are vying for some improvement in terms of their well-being, right? So the poor, the ultra poor, are actually trying to get better food, clothing, shelter, water, basic healthcare, basic schooling for their children, whatever. People who are just above the poverty line want to shatter that and move upward. The high income people want to use technology better, and they want to get ahead in their life, and they want to get into better levels of well-being. The super rich, the uber rich, are looking for their names to be on the Forbes list or the rankings of the richest people in the world. So, all these people are trying to get into some kind of economic foothold in this world, in the world economy. That's what everybody is looking for. So, this world, which is increasingly connected through trade, through communication, through production flows, has something to offer for everybody. And it is that pie, that about 105 trillion, that everybody wants a share of. So, while we have spoken about the growth of the world GDP, what it means to us is actually more important. So, while the GDP as such has grown, what does it mean to every single person in the world? So, that is where the per capita concept comes into the picture. So, this world today is remarkably unequal. On one hand, you have the absolute super rich whose balances outdo several nations' GDPs. So, that's on one hand. And on the other hand, you have extreme poverty. People who cannot even look at 2 or 3 square meals a day. People who do not have access to decent portable drinking water, no access to toilets. So they are struggling in abject poverty. That is on one hand. So those poorest of the poor are actually facing a life and death situation every single day. So today they are done. So it's a checkbox on one single day. So that's how it is. So while the world is unequal on one side, it has also become more threatening. The world per se has not become threatening. It is the human beings who are not taking care of the world, which is actually making the world more threatening. Human beings and every creature is actually dependent on the earth, the environment for all its needs. But we are not doing a good job of actually taking care of it. That is where the world by itself is becoming threatening in nature. Moving on. So, where do we arrive at the core of sustainable development? On one hand, we have huge environmental risks. There are these cycles of water, nitrogen, carbon that are having changes today. The Earth's climate is going through changes. The water is getting more polluted. Ocean's chemistry is changing. We are dumping huge, copious amounts of unimaginable amounts of plastic into the oceans. We are stepping in grossly into the habitats of other species. So other species' natural environments are being degrading. We are degrading them. We are consuming all of it. So some maniacal consumption from the part of one creature, one species, that is human beings. So we do not know where we are actually heading towards, but all we do know is in human beings' very limited history of about 10,000 years of civilization, we are heading towards a dangerous cliff. And that danger is at the core of sustainable development that we will be seeing. And define sustainable development in this one lecture of 40 minutes. So, what are the questions that we have to stop and ask right now? So, why are certain people poor? The world economy seems to be growing, but why is it that the poor are not able to come out of their poverty? So, why does such a thing happen? So, the whole world is interconnected today more than ever before. The kind of information overload we are getting today is huge. How and why is this happening? Despite all this, you have power struggles, we have inequality of income, of wealth, of discrimination. So, can the poor even escape their fate? So, can any better things happen? Is it possible for us to combine economic development on one hand and take care of the environment also, and also ensure social justice to people? Are we even going to put all these together and think for a moment? So, those are the questions we need to be answering today. So, this takes us to the concept of sustainability. There are three things. One is the world economy, the economic part of sustainability. The other one is the societal part of sustainability. And the third one is the environment part. The cusp of these three things actually lies the concept of sustainability.
की करते हो टक्कू टक्कू झाले
जेवण झालं
मग.
का?
टक्कू टक्कू झाले मग.
म्यूट केलं की नाहीतर तुमच्या कंटेंट काय ऑडियन्सचा सगळं ऐकायला जाईल.
केलं तेव्हाच म्यूट केलं. अमो टक्कू टक्कू झाले अमो.
जेवलो का? काय जेवलात?
मी होय भाजी पोळी
कोण दिलं भाजी?
इथं असते ना समोर. चांगलं हॉटेल आहे, भाजी पोळी मिळते.
खरं की?
इथं मिळते या कोपऱ्यावर.
बघू पार्सल बघू.
जेवलो की आणून आलं तेव्हा कॉलेजून. आता वेबिनार असतो ना, पुन्हा बंद राहते ते. काय म्हणले ते ना शंभो. काही म्हणते.
काढून दाखवू, काढून परत लावून दाखवू आपल्याला.
बसला का सीट बेल्ट.
काढ ना.
हां हां हां. वा वा गुड. छान 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 छान. ओ छान छान. आता दुकानात चालत का मॉलला. हां आणलं का. आणलं का. काय आणलं दुकानातून. बसा. आता हां सीट बेल्ट लावला.
गाडी पडली सांभाळून जाऊन या. आता तिकडे एक चक्कर मारून या.
मॉलला जाऊन या. मॉलला जाऊन या. ओ हंबो मॉलला जाऊन या. ओ ओ ओ घरात बी गाडीच लागते साहेबाला.
जातो. बरोबर बर ठीक आहे ठीक आहे चालेल.
कुठं कुठं जातो. कुठं 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 जातो.
झाली
काढला. आली आली सुआली सुआली.
शून्यला जातो. शिव शिकायला सांगा. सकाळी काय जेवला तू.
सकाळी खिचडी केली बेटा मस्त टमाटे टाकून जाताना.
बरं व्यवस्थित जेवणाची सोबत आहे की उद्या पण आहे म्हणजे मम्मी तिकडं माऊटला.
जाऊ दे की काय होलं तिला राहू दे की 1-2 दिवस.
येताना कसं येणार आहे.
मी जाईन शक्यतो. मला एक काम आहे. मी येताना घेऊन तिला म्हणलं रविवारपर्यंत थांब. मी रविवारी सह्या करून येतो. सोमवारी अडचण येऊ नये. ओळखीचे राहू न राहू मी जाऊन घेऊन येतो. माझं काम होतं.
बरं बरं चालेल ठीक आहे.
सीट बेल्ट काढला त्याने. सीट बेल्ट काढला म्हणे. खूप बोललेला आहे आता.
काही थांबत नाहीये बोलणं जाऊ द्या.
मला ते मला कॅमेरा दाखव. कॅमेरा कुठे आहे दाखवा तुम्ही मला. कॅमेरा दाखवा. दाखवा कॅमेरा दाखवा कॅमेरा दाखवा कुठे आहे. कॅमेरा दाखवा बो. सोनू 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 ए सोनू. तिथं बंद झाला कॅमेरा. जाऊ द्या जाऊ द्या ठेवून द्या आता. दिसला हो. दिसना दिसना दिसला 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 कॅमेरा दिसला. दिसना 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 कॅमेरा दिसना मला. अम्बो कॅमेरा दिसना. ओ दिशा कॅमेरा दिशा छंबो छंबो कॅमेरा दिशंबो. ओ ओके गाडी पार्क करा. हां छान. ते कुठं आहे? इथं आहे. ते कुठं आहे? हो ते म्हणतो.
Present generation is doing is borrowing from the future and eating it up today. So those are the perspectives we need to have about sustainability. Again, there are further summits that actually define sustainability in better ways. The one that happened in 2012 in the UN General Assembly gives an absolute, it's a very comprehensive definition of sustainability. I will share the slides and you can then look at it. So there are some concepts on sustainable development that actually become important to us. The first thing we have to talk about is social inclusion. Okay, we are talking about increasing the pie, we are talking about increasing world GDP, but is that the only metric? The answer is no. So we have to talk here about income distribution, reaching it out to the poorest of the poor, reaching development to the last person who's standing in the line. So in that case, we have to be concerned about social inclusion. So when we talk about social inclusion, certain key terms become important. One is the existence of extreme poverty, the existence of economic inequality, social mobility, discrimination, and social cohesion. So if we move on to, we will be seeing a few of these things. So just to take a small case study about the growth of China. So China grew from the late 70s to the 80s. China had a huge growth spurt. Actually, it's a huge growth, roughly growing at about 9%. And between 1978 and 2013, China grew 11.8 times. It grew itself 11.8 times. Today it's called the industrial workshop and things like that. But to understand what China has done to itself, we are talking pure economics here. So if we will see just a little picture of how China, Shenzhen typically, looked in 1980, all its pastoral beauty and greenery and everything, to how China looks today. It's an absolute hub, a total city. There's not even the slightest semblance of what China would have looked in 1980. Nothing, absolutely. So what happened to China in the process? It's not that China grew and it was all a very happy ending. China broke down its society. The society was disrupted because people, I mean, from their families were disrupted. So it became a two-member earning families. Children were left with their grandparents. Some children grew up by themselves. But
दिसला.
actually see that the inequality of income distribution in China has hugely soared. Those pockets which have development, which see development, there are high incomes there, and the hinterlands were left far behind. And the physical environment, as how we saw, has been absolutely devastated. So diseases, strokes, cancers, those are the things that are actually happening today in China. So from the Chinese experience, we can definitely say that development has happened, but is it sustainable? I think the answer is a resounding no, at least in the Chinese case. So, moving to understanding what extreme poverty, how extreme poverty can actually exist in the midst of plenty. Poverty can be defined as if somebody is struggling to even make to just put it loosely, to make their two ends meet, to even meet their basic needs. You don't have food, roti, kapda, makan, then it's not there. It means that you are in extreme poverty. So life is a daily struggle. There is struggle for dignity. There's problem everywhere. So the point is roughly 1 billion people to 2.5 billion people, depending on what kind of metrics are taken, are said to be in extreme poverty today. And that's not happy news for a 105 trillion world economy GDP at all, which means while the world GDP grew, it definitely did not reach everybody. So there are people who have been kept out of this growth story. So just to talk a little bit in pictures, what does rural extreme poverty look like? So this is a dry region, so there's not much of water that's visible. So actually there is one donkey or a mule here, and there is the harvest that's propped up on it. So we can see that there is not much of access to technology, even from the agriculture sphere. This person who's actually behind the harvest, we don't see the person's face here, is a classic case of rural extreme poverty. So this person has made, it's a tough life to even put food on the floor for this family. If this person gets lucky, he or she may be taking some to the market to make a little money. So this is how rural extreme poverty looks like. How does rural extreme poverty look like in Africa? This site is not entirely new to us. If we go by the trains into the hinterlands, just as we finish cities and move on to the suburbs and into the suburbs, you can actually see that suburbs and cities, there are pockets of cities which are worse than what we actually see here. You have a railway track, and you have houses that are absolute makeshift places. You have some pollution happening. There is no sense of basically to say it's very subhuman to live in places like this. So, and how does extreme poverty look like in South Asia? This image is taken from the internet. I'm not too sure if this one is from India or from Pakistan. So South Asia is what is said. Again, this is fairly a familiar sight for people like us in India. So this is how rural poverty looks like. If we will see, poverty and certain geographical patterns go hand in hand. For example, invariably, a geographical disadvantage can come in the form of a landlocked place, which is water stressed, high in diseases, famines, whatever. Natural hazards keep coming in, and lack of natural resources and fossil fuels. This is the general pattern of extreme poverty, generally, world over. But today, the good news we will be looking at is that modern technologies can offer modern solutions, and it is possible with concerted effort to pull people out of their extreme poverty. The next one we have to look at is the growth of culture, demography, education, and gender. So there are certain culture norms, stubborn norms that are there in countries, in civilizations, which do not change. So culture, again, it is immutable, but it is not completely unchangeable. With passing time, culture also changes, but it's stubborn. It does not change that fast. So, for example, in certain cultures, women are not taken very seriously. They are not given legal rights. They are disenfranchised from voting, absolutely. So they continue to face massive discrimination. Even if they do land themselves in jobs, they may not be paid the same as their male counterparts. So these things obviously exist toward one half of the population today. So, any society that tries to run on half the brain power, on half its muscle power, is only bound to go to a certain degree as compared to a society that utilizes both men and women. So, this cultural attitude towards women is something that has to change. So, gender inequality is something which we have to talk about. So, gender inequality definitely has economic outcomes as well. So, moving on from the societal aspects to the
मल्हार
environmental
मल्हार
aspects,
मल्हार ए मल्हार ते मंकी खाली पडले की बेटा त्या तिथं मंकी काय करतोय बघ ना तिथं कसं बसले झोपले मंकी तुमचं बघा बरं ते काढा उचला मंकी उचला त्या झोक्याजवळ पडले ना झुल्याजवळ मंकी खाली पडले बाळ रडलाले ते
yes. So, we are slowly, or rather, we have kind of crossed the safe operating conditions of our planet. So, this study, Rockstrom et al., speaks about certain planetary boundaries across 9 areas. They can be defined as human induced climate change, planetary boundaries with regard to the oceans, ozone depletion, nitrogen and phosphorus fluxes, changes in land use, freshwater depletion, loss of biodiversity, aerosols,
उचलून ठेवा
and
ते उचलून
chemical
ठेवा
pollution. So,
मंकीला
the reds are
मंकीला
a
मंकीला
danger.
उचलून ठेवा रडते ते
It
मंकी
is not to be misconstrued that
हो परफेक्ट
the
ठेवलं
other
ठेवलं
things
ठेवलं
are
ठेवलं
not,
ठेवलं
I mean, they are not reds.
ओके
You will see
हां गुड
the
बाय गुड
atmospheric
बाय
aerosol loading and chemical pollution have not even been quantified yet. Of course, it's an old paper and people may have attempted to.
ठेव ना का मंकीला ठेव ना मंकीला ठेव ना ओ मंकीला झोपू घाला मंकीला झोपू घाला
मंकी कुठे आहे
आणि त्याच्या इथे बसतो तुम्ही पाठीमागे पूजा बसतो
Things. The first one is the business as usual rule. Fair enough. Whatever we are doing today, we will continue to do. So, science and technology is going to the economic prosperity of the world in general. If not 105 trillion, it might go to 125 trillion. So, people will become richer. Certain people will be pulled out of poverty. The richer will get richer. All that is going to happen, but inequality definitely is going to rise. So, and environment destruction is definitely going to happen at a greater pace if we are going to go with business as usual. So, while economic progress will happen, calamities, both on the social side and the environmental side, will definitely strike humanity. So, more than 200 years of progress, we can just be knocked off in a jiffy, either through natural disasters, wars, or anything. So, when we are taking the present route that we are taking, there is a huge imminent danger that is lurking around. So, what if we take wholeheartedly the sustainable approach? Of course, it is going to be a huge, dramatic shift, a paradigm shift for how we are running our businesses, how we are thinking, how we are acting. It's a huge change of course. We'll have to move on to electric vehicles. We'll have to move on to solar power. We'll have to look at a sustainable solution for every single activity. Coordinated global effort. So that every part of the world has to be involved. It has to be a bottom-down approach. Therefore, we need more creative and new ways in engaging the world population. So that is when we arrive at sustainable development. So sustainable growth can be had only in that case. So moving on, what have we done until now? There are certain things that we have definitely moved ahead with. The first thing that we did was in 1948, when the United Nations was formed, we had the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So that we can say is the moral charter of the United Nations. The world was bleeding from the world wars. So that is when the moral heart and soul of the UN was actually established during this time. So not in the year, almost after 5 decades, we had the Millennium Developmental Goals. So more than 160 heads of states and governments came together and committed themselves and went ahead with the Millennium Declaration and said, yes, the world needs concerted action. We need to come together as one force. We need to do what humanity needs for tomorrow. So these were the 8 Millennium Development Goals. So it is the major focus of the Millennium Development Goals was eradication of poverty and extreme hunger, which they succeeded in really well. So the MDGs were stands as a beacon of some kind of a hope to tell humanity, to tell the world that if concerted action is going to happen, how the world can actually be better for everybody. So the Millennial Development Goals are 8 in number. It is the first one is about eradicating extreme poverty and hunger, universal education, gender equality and empowering of women, reducing child mortality, improving maternal health, combating AIDS and other diseases, environment sustainability, and a global partnership for development. While the world did wonders, more than 600 million people were taken off from extreme poverty, but the MDGs still had unfinished businesses to attend to. So women, on the women's side, there was not so much of progress that was made. Girls' health and well-being, while the nations tried, there were still concepts that were actually lacking. So maternal mortality, universal access to reproductive health, and those things were actually lagging behind when it came to the MDGs. So that gave birth to the Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals were again about 193 nations came together. That is the pledge they took to create a better tomorrow. So this was, attaining sustainable development. The planet is already crowded. It is unequal. It is degraded beyond a point. So this was the challenge that the world as such was facing. The stakes were very high. This point here that I'm sharing is an extremely important point for all of us. This generation, the present generation that is working on the Sustainable Development Goals, may be the first generation, if we go as per plan, maybe the first generation to succeed in ending poverty, and also it may be the last generation to have a chance of saving the planet. So we have already pushed ourselves to a situation where it is a do or die. We stand united with our effort, or we risk perishing. So that's where we have led ourselves up to. So the SDGs should serve as some kind of a compass, some kind of a lighthouse for the world to move together. So the 5 P's of sustainability, Sustainable Development Goals are people, prosperity, peace, partnership, and planet. So all this has to be taken together. So that's when we actually arrive at sustainability. So Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 goals in all. It is about, it's actually a much more wider perspective, which stands on actually the 4 pillars, the normative pillars of what we saw earlier. So it's no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth. So if we will see economic growth, decent work is fit into one, economic growth per se. So industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions. That is where we are actually bringing it all together. The world global community has to come together, and partnerships have to be forged, nurtured, and strengthened so that we can all move together for a better future. So I would like to conclude this talk by saying that this earth, this planet is the heart, the soul of sustainable development is this, that we have only one home. It's our earth. This is the last call to save ourselves and our planet. we have to do it for ourselves and our future generations. It's not just that. I think it's the absolute perfectly right thing to do at this point in time. So with this, I would like to finish my presentation.
So thank you very much, madam, for wonderful presentation on the topic sustainable development.
Thank you.
Now I request dear participants, if you have any queries, please come ahead and ask to Honorable Madam. Dear participants.
So,
Hello. Good evening, Dr. Bedkar sir, Prashant sir, and thank you very much, madam, for wonderful presentation. Sustainable goal and Millennium Development Goal, these are the very prime forces nowadays running throughout the world, and they are really improving the status of the developing countries. But still, there is a disparity between the developed and developing, rural and urban, and rich and poor. And there is a quite great social injustice what we could see. So really, we want to develop oneself. We have to develop with every means all components of the world should get developed all together. What you said correctly.
yes, sir.
That is a wonderful thing. I think G20 was that expression of that thing only, that coming together, and we help African countries to come into G21 now. So that is also a wonderful thing what we are doing. And no doubt, the bigger countries are helping like a small brother. They are helping other countries. They are giving funds. They are giving health aspects. Everything they are giving. But the thing is, the improvement should start from my side, and then the things can see, everywhere. So that is a formula, very important formula. WHO has given a very great pledge, that is World Health Organization has given a pledge that is health for all by 2080. And everyone should enjoy the good health. That is a perspective what they are given. And for sustainable goal, I think this kind of objectives are very, very much necessary. That is one thing. A very important thing what I want to point out over here is there are some countries and there are some institutions in the country, within country also, you'll find they are really making the countries, a little shaky. The reason is, the people are having kind of frauds, and they are having a kind of these kind of forces which are present, they are really taking our country back. So some big businessman, takes the money and go away from the India. And these are the things, which we have to put a break. Otherwise, what will happen, that we will try to get as many things, but on the other side, the things will go on. It is just like a sack with the sand. We are filling the sand, and there is a hole to the sack. So I think for sustainable goal, we have to block all these what we can say, negative energies. That is one thing. Terrorism is another thing. Sustainable goal. And very correctly what you have said, when we are doing development, it doesn't mean just just a minute, ma'am.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. So we have to block this change. So I think that is how we can go with sustainable goal. And environment, yes, we have to make a kind of a balance, mutual balance between our development and the ecosystem. We have to maintain that particular balance. If we are not maintaining, and the natural resources what we are having, we are exhausting them. We are going for development. We are going for the development. We are going for this development, and then other side we are utilizing these resources, and but then again the problem we will be there at means the sustainable goal we cannot achieve. That is what I want to say. Last point I want to say, that is about the once I went to the one of the village near Aurangabad, Patoda, and over there I visited one of the very ideal village. And the ideal village was, the Sarpanch was there, Pere Patil. And I just asked, how we can develop our country and how we can, go for the further growth. He said, why you are thinking of a country? You think about the village. So you collect good taxes in the village, you maintain the taxes, you maintain the natural resources, you maintain the, all aspects of the village. And village are the small units of the country and naturally to the global village. So so that is how he said about this, and I really appreciated. Yes, so for everyone, what we can do, we can play with the small units of the our society, and that is how we can go for the sustainable goal, and definitely we can achieve Millennium Development Goal. No doubt, you said very correctly about the gender equality, and another very important thing is peace and maintaining our institutions, not disturbing our institution. That is also one of the very important point what I feel in a sustainable development goal. Thank you, madam, for your great expressions regarding the sustainable developmental goal, and also you have done integration, kind of horizontal integration with Millennium Development Goal also. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You also very beautifully brought out the G20 partnership, sir. Thank you, sir. That's something I had actually missed out. Thank you so much.
If anybody is there would like to ask, please come.
Sir, this is not asking, this is just to add on. She was mentioning, add on to. Am I audible?
Yes, madam. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. This is just to add on to what was already discussed. There has always been a perennial debate on Bhagavati and Sen that happens now. When we talk about development, we will always have to compromise on sustainability. And when there is sustainability, when we think of sustainability, we need food to eat today. So that is definite. Development is something we cannot compromise on. So when we think of that, then somewhere it is always a trade-off. That is where the Bhagavati and Sen argument is evergreen and perennial, right? So we need to strike a right balance somewhere.
Yes, ma'am. The word is balance. You just nailed it there.
Yeah, exactly.
And the trade-offs are very stark. But it's not about maniacally, ruining the environment in pursuit of growth. So I think it's a balance. That's the right word here.
Yeah, the balance is what, it's not one country doing, it has to be a collective effort. As you were saying, the earth is one. So, Vasudeva Kudumbakam.
Yes, very true.
So it is not like you, me. There should be trade-off in who is doing. All of us should do our contribution to it. It starts from home. It should start from home.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Agreed. Yes.
Yeah, this is just to add on to what it was very nicely put. From MDGs to SDGs is good. A good transition and very well done. So just thought I will add this one small point which you already were mentioning.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, thank you, Dr. Shukla sir and Lakshmi madam. You have added more points in the series and also shared some views, examples. So with this, I thanks a lot to you very much. Now I request the chief organizer of the series, Honorable Principal M. Ambedkar sir. Please welcome sir and have some concluding words for the sessions, please.
Thank you, Prashant sir. Chetana Araro madam did some message. If you want to discuss, Chetana Arora madam.
Sir, ma'am had spoken about individual efforts.
No, this new Chetana madam, she just have given a message. So if she wants anything
Sir,
from...
I just want to say that not only the countries are responsible, but we are also responsible for development. Sustainable development will start at home itself. If we start minimizing our waste and using things wisely, then only it can happen. So individual efforts are very much required by each and every citizen of the world.
Thank you, Chetna Arora madam, for
Thank you,
discussing
sir.
here. And today's resource person, Dr. Shobana madam, all the participants, including Dr. Swanand Shukla sir, Lakshmi Chakravarti madam, Dr. Sanjay Kale sir, Vilmamati madam, and other from our college. Topic was sustainable development. I think it's repeated for this dais because it's need to discuss sustainable development in other dimensions also. So today's topic may be related for the dais but presented very nicely, including all the available points and also including the social inclusion, poverty, what we are facing, how certain development can be happened, which are the obstacles, how the other countries come together, have a better development of the world also, how pollution is affecting. So these points are useful for us. One side we start to using so many resources at the time it is causing environmental pollution, some species are in danger. So all these things you have covered very perfectly, and it was a nice presentation, a nice PPT, and best presentation of this series. Thank you madam. We will in future
Thank
also
you so much,
invite
sir.
you for this webinar series. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. My pleasure, absolutely.
Thank you so much, sir. The term sustainable development is very wider one, though it is repeated, but today madam have explained some new things in the session. So thanks. Now I move towards the vote of thanks. Shri Kumarswami in Mahavidyalaya Ausa, District Latur. It's organized one record series 2. Today we have completed 213th day of the series. And the topic for today's presentation was sustainable development, which have been presented by Honorable Shobana Karthikeyan madam, where madam have explained what the sustainability is, then what do you mean by sustainable development, then the different elements of sustainability, giving many examples regarding the topic, as well as the core of sustainable developments, then the types of sustainable development, then afterwards 5D sustainable goal, development goals, etc. Now these points are definitely, madam, you explained, are new to us, even though it was repeatedly, but we learned a lot from today's session, from your explanations. So thanks a lot on behalf of the organizing committee members for being with us, and you paid your valuable time in the series. So thanks a lot. Really, it was very wonderful session. We appreciated a lot your lecture today. Then
Thank you very much,
to the
sir.
Chief Organizer of the service, Honorable Principal M. Ambedkar sir. I thank the colleagues from my college, Dr. Sanjay Kale sir, Dr. Anita Dole madam, Honorable Praveen Udge sir, Dr. Sudhir Garar sir, and others. I should not forget these names, Dr. Swanand Shukla sir, Lakshmi madam, and Chetna madam have explained some views, asked some questions. So thanks a lot to you all. And at last, all our sweet participants, those who joins the regularly to the series, encourage us and enhance the beauty of the series. So thanks to you all once again. Now I request, please fill the feedback link which is given in the chat box. So with the kind permission of the chief organizer, I declare it is over. So once again,
Thank you,
thanks
madam.
a lot to
Thank you.
madam. Shobana madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.
We keep this for 5 minutes. You can leave now because it's perfectly as you have scheduled for 1 hour webinar. It's 8:59, so we are ending at perfect time. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Chetna madam. Thanks a lot.